Hi, my name is Connor Moorman, and today I will be informing you all of the development, the origin, and the transitions of the art of imperfection known as wabi-sabi. Generally when people think of art, they think of a masterpiece or just like a precise work of art, but with wabi-sabi that is not generally the case. Wabi-sabi techniques were originally developed by the ancient Chinese, but they later inspired the Japanese and their Zen Buddhism techniques. And their Zen Buddhism techniques was a form of meditation that was used here in Zen gardens, and it was a form of art that was, or was a form of meditation that was used to keep them in touch with nature. A commonly overlooked feature of wabi-sabi is a technique that was that it was actually more of a mindset before it was an art form. And it was the idea of like imperfection of nature, like this tree, for example. It's dwindling, but still you can find the beauty in the art. Because the Zen Buddhism techniques connected humans with nature, it was noted that nature is not always perfect and won't always contain exactly what people are going to want it to do. But even in the imperfection of this, like this tree, for example, it has a strange curvature to it that provides its own natural beauty. An interesting feature of wabi-sabi is that the viewpoint of one object can vary greatly from person to person. One person may look at this and get sort of like a sad, almost like depressing feeling, and one person may be able to look at it and see it from a completely different perspective. Like I previously said, wabi-sabi has the power to trigger many emotions. Like say if you were to ask a Westerner or an American about this picture, like what they see, they would say it's just a flower. But say if you were to ask like a Zen Buddhism or a Zen Buddhist, they might be able to see this and see something completely different, or almost tell the story from just a simple picture like so. Visually is not the only way to embody the wabi-sabi mindset. The reason for the Japanese to practice this meditation in Zen gardens was so that they could be more in touch with nature. They'd be able to physically see the nature, smell it, and they'd be able to feel it and just hear everything around them while they're in these Zen gardens. The appreciation of nature and its life cycle is not the only way to view wabi-sabi. In this photo, you notice the drooping plants foregrounded, but you also notice the kind of broken, cracked wood panels in the background, which complement it nicely, as nothing is necessarily perfect in this picture. So let's transition away from nature for a little bit here. Here in this picture, you see a rustic, kind of worn down wall. And many people are going to see the imperfections in this wall and think of like different ways that they'd be able to fix them. Much like how nature has a time limit on life, so do man-made creations as well. And finding perfection in broken or cracked things is just another form of wabi-sabi. So when it comes to wabi-sabi art, you're not going to find gold in it, you're not going to find diamonds, you're not going to find outright beauty. It's something that you have to look deeper in order to find. Like these chairs, for example, they're dwindled down, you can tell that they've been used, but you still find an aesthetically pleasing feature within them if you look hard enough. So at first glance, someone might wonder why would anyone take a picture of a worn down wall like this? And that was originally like my first impression of it as well. Because I was just like wondering what, obviously it's just a worn down wall and that's just what it seems like. But when I first looked at it, I eventually came to a deeper understanding of what it was after I'd studied wabi-sabi more in depth. Much like broken glass or a shattered vase on the ground, it is much more difficult to see the beauty in worn down objects opposed to like wabi-sabi in nature. Rather than complaining about the imperfection, though, it is a simple way to see the world in general. So it's pictures like this that most likely got the actual art form of wabi-sabi to get going. Because when I first saw this, I thought it was actually like a painting of some sort. But when I looked more closely at it, it was actually kind of like a metal panel that had been rusted down and just decayed over time. But there was still some sort of sense of nature present in it. Closely relating to the last slide, this wabi-sabi painting, in my view, art like this really brings like the wabi-sabi form full circle, because it starts out with the embodiment of nature in the mind and ends up with the same principles reproduced on a two-dimensional plane. This brings us back to where it all began, in the Zen Buddhism gardens, and to the life cycle of nature, from life to death, along with the man-made creations from their start and to their initial decay. But all in all, wabi-sabi is a simple way to view the world, with the world, its life, and everything within it, perfect or not. Anyone?
I did like how you used more everyday items that we use than just focusing more on plants and rocks and whatnot. I think the getting a connection to our everyday lives is nice.
I felt like you had more of a connection with the topic too, like kind of the ways you express some like the specific items and then like, how you looked at them differently after researching it. So it's good to kind of get that.
Yes.
I really like the connection between the metal panel and the painting because they do look really similar. And I think that really got the idea that we were trying to get across, that it doesn't have to be perfect.
How could anyone look at the photograph and not see the beauty to it? You know, after you think about this for a moment, then it calls into question everything you've seen about abstract art and even going back to the Impressionists and Expressionism and all of the other forms of art in the last couple of centuries. You think, well, you know, it's right there in nature, and you begin to understand why the Impressionists were interested in light, etc., and all the other comprising mechanisms of an image rather than just a realistic drawing.
Yeah, that picture had caught my attention, and when I looked closely at it, I noticed it was just like worn down chairs just with a unique lighting on it, and it's like the pattern of it really made it stand out, and the different shades of it just kind of stuck out to me.
You get into this and you start realizing even such as something like your own bedroom with different amounts of light, that objects that you think of as very mundane can actually be quite beautiful to you. Other questions and comments about the presentation? Did you take any pictures yourself?
No, I didn't intended to, but this last week I was up for almost 3 days straight, so I kind of didn't have a lot of time.
It will change, those of you who take pictures, concentrating in this will change what you photograph. That's what's really fascinating to me. What you find interesting to look at will change as a matter of thinking about these principles. I always think it's one of the more interesting subjects because people usually do have a new awareness afterwards, and it calls into question what we do when we really design things, and how often do we do too much to a design because you begin to see things in a more simple way. Thank you, Tony.